Assalamu alaikum, good morning, and hello everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Engineer Salman Ahmed Khan, and today I'm going to present you about the spare planning and inventory optimization in the industry. So, in this video, we are going to discuss and talk about how we do the spare planning and inventory optimization in the industry. So, what are the spares and what are the assets? These two words we have often listened while we are working in the industry, while we are working in the organizations. So the basic difference between these two are spares are those parts in the inventory which are used to ensure that the machine downtime is minimized in order to have a smooth production. And about the assets consist of collection of the components which shall be replaced or can be replaced due to the aged degradation or depreciation, or we can say due to the functional failure. So to summarize this slide, spares are basically those parts which needs to be ensured that they must be in our inventory to reduce the downtimes. And they can be the bearings, they can be the shaft, they can be the couplings, they can be the nut bolts, they can be the PLCs cards, they can be the sensors, they can be the conveyor belts, they can be like consumable parts related to the shafts related material, tools and equipments. And if we talked about the assets, as I already have explained about the assets, well, in my previous videos in the budgeting planning, that it is basically that part, that component which has a life greater than 1 year, and it is required for the industry that need to be replaced due to degradation or due to the functional failure in order to have a smooth production, in order to have a running business, to achieve your profitability by ensuring the reliability, minimizing the downtime, to improve the process. So space inventory has a lot of challenges, and in terms of the business context, they are required on emergency basis if they are not available. So in order to have a contingency plan to reduce the emergency, you need to plan your inventory in a better way so that you have the right product at the right place at the right time with the right quantity at the right quality. Now, when you have the spares in your inventory, they may be not used for many years while they are in the stock. While they are in the stock, they are not used for many years, and some spares become obsolete due to the technological changes, or they have some kind of the shelf life which make them expired after some times. So these kind of the challenges are always there for anyone who is managing the spares of the company, the spares of the plant. And other could be that higher cost is also another challenge in terms of the financial profit and loss statement, financial statements of the company. And while carrying the financial cost, you also need to assess the operational risk and the downtime, which can be happen due to the stockouts of the spares. And then there is an excessive inventory and the capital blockage. You actually manage the inventory. So that inventory or that storage of inventory is the cost of your company capital blockage, or you can say the capital cost of your company, which is already been in form of the total cost of the inventory, total cost of the ownership. I'm sorry. So while you are managing these risks, there is also another challenge that due to the technological change, the item got obsolete. So these are the challenges that you face while doing the space management. So these are basically why we do the spares management planning. The number one is that we have to minimize the stockouts for in order to have a continuous production for the profitability. And we wanted to have a better ROI, return on investment, by minimizing the spares. And then we wanted to minimize the man hours in order to improve the efficiency. So these spare planning management are being done, and these are the primary cost, we can say, the primary uh, the primary objectives of doing the spares planning. So in order to assure production continuity, there must be no stock out, no stoppage. Then you have to optimize the inventory level. You have to, you have to make sure that you have the right quantity available at the right time. And then the better ROI means that you have to actually do the continuous improvement in lowering your inventory for the high returns. And after that, you have to reduce the man hour, and man hours could be reduced when you have the better spare plannings available in your inventory. So how this planning function is work? Planning function is basically the epicenter of the entire supply chain management. And when I talked about the epicenter, it's mean it is the center part of your inventory, and where you actually coordinate with the operations for in order to have to know their daily plans of executions, where you have to coordinate with the stores for maintaining the right inventory. Then you also have to maintain the license with the accounting and finance department to track the cost, budgetings, financial assets, and regarding to the asset management. And then you need to maintain the technical database for maintaining accurate asset data. You also have to coordinate with the suppliers uh, for to know the upgradation, the upgrade technology, to know about the upgrade technology in the market, to execute your maintenance with the efficiency, and to in order to have a better supply relationship management for getting the right product with the right quality. And then you also need to make a liaison with the maintenance supervision team who are monitoring, ensuring the quality maintenance, and of course procurement department as well, whose major responsibility is to procure the spares either from import or the local, to get the right product at the right time with the right pricing, and then also the inspection. So it means that spare planning and the material planning is basically the epicenter of this entire supply chain, which is almost coordinating with every department, or we can say they are doing the cross-functional collaboration with every department, including accounting and finance, stores, inventory, procurement, plants teams, or logistic department, supplier relationship management, to have a better integrated planning for the reliable operations. And this is, done in order to have the optimal order planning of the spares. Now, how the spare management actually works. So there are basically four categories where you can actually manage your spares. Number one is the spares identification. You need to identify the critical spares based on equipment criticality and the history of the failures. And then you need to actually do the forecasting of your spares based upon their demand using the consumption trends, equipment plans, and the lead times. And after that, once you finish with the demand side, from the supply side, you need to assess your inventory, evaluate the current inventory levels, coverage risk, and the performance indicators. And after that, you actually focus on optimizing your inventory to ensure availability with the minimized cost. And there must be a reduction in the obsolescence. Obsolete parts should also be identified, or non-moving parts, which could be either due to any technological change or other things, for better planning, better controls in order to have a better results. Now, this is basically the cycle of the spares planning from the demand side. I talked about spares identification in my previous slides, and how do you do that? First, you have the data of the fixed assets in your database, and that database could be either any software, it could be related to the SAP, Oracle, or whatever you have. So once you have an asset register with yourself, you assess the spare criticality with reference to the bill of materials of the plant and machinery. And then you actually manage those drawings and the catalogs. You also study the drawings of the plant and machinery to get the basic understanding of the spares, where they are located and how much critical they are. And after you do that, you prepare a demand list. Once you do the demand list, you actually do their classification based upon their operational requirements. Classifications could be in terms of the ABCs, ABC analysis, operative analysis, and then you do the consumption analysis based on the consumption-based planning, based on forecasting-based planning, or based on their the consumption trends. And after you do the consumption analysis, you actually find out which space is consumable space, which spare is operational spares, and when you identify that, you forecast their results. So what are consumable spares, operational spares, and how you actually do that? In the next slide, there are some definitions of these terms which I have used. Asset register is a list of the assets within the scope of the study for which spare will be needed to facilitate maintenance during the lifetime. Now, asset register could be the fixed asset registers that you maintain with the coordination of the finance management, with the coordination of the accounts department. And after that, you actually assess the criticality, considering the potential arising from the functional failure of the assets, that which asset is critical for your production. And in case of its failure, how could it actually impact your production? And for that reason, you study the bill of material or a product structure, a list of raw materials or the space required to make the product, or required to make a spare or an asset effective. And of course, these criticality assessments or the bill of materials assessments are also being done through studying the drawings, through studying the specification of each spares for purchasing as well as maintenance for the purpose of the inspection and modifications and all those things. Once you do that, you actually prepare the demand list. And after that, you do the forecasting, you do classification in terms of the consumable, non-consumable, critical, and just-in-time items available. Um, and these consumption analyses are being done to analyze your spares based upon the reliable data, based on the consumption history, to base the prediction of that. And after that, consumable spares, you identify the consumable spares and operational spares. So the consumable spares are those which are large in use. They have the low unit price, short lifetime, high consumption, short lead time. Meanwhile, the operational spares are normally required to support plant maintenance and overhaul, and a very important part of your maintenance management or maintenance strategy. After that, you forecast future consumption, also typically including information on service life, profitability of the need when you feel ready to move on. Now, this spare management was from the demand planning side. Now, from the supply side or supply chain side, you need to do the invest assessment and the optimization. Assessment means of the inventory means that identify critical spare based on the impact, and you need to do the consumable calculation based on the ABC analysis, and then you have to assess the insurance requirement of the spares based upon the budget assessment, the budget you have, because you need to control your cash flows, as I mentioned in my previous videos, that how important it is for the organizations to manage their cash flows. So once you do with the assessment, you identify operational spare, you do the cost analysis, analyze inventory cost components based upon the total cost of the ownership, comparison of the strategies, compare stock strategies, and then setting the inventory parameters, and then the determination. So to define these terms, criticality mean assessment of the critical items like seals, valves, sensor. Organization must discuss and agree its own criteria for establishing asset criticality, like motors, like valves, like cylinders. And the consumption-based calculation can be done through the economic order quantity, where we can determine the reorder point as well if we have a constant consumption. This economic order quantity is used to balance the holding cost with the ordering cost. And after that, we can use the Pareto analysis, 80-20 rules. And then we can compare our recommended strategy with the inventory budget to see if it is affordable and can we revise based upon the scenarios. And after that, there is inventory optimization procedure and asset register. In operational space, you can optimize your inventory based upon the asset register you have within the scope of the study for which spare will be needed to facilitate the maintenance during the lifetime. You can also assess that in this part as well and do the cost analysis of inventory in terms of the production loss of the achievement. While many times I have seen that most of the people at the supply side, they actually do the analysis of the inventory in terms of the inventory cost, but they don't realize that the production cost or the cost of the production that can be lost or can be higher if that product is not available, and the production cost could be higher or loss can be higher in terms of the downtime. So these strategies are also important. You need to compare that planning in your planning strategies to minimize the reorder level to reduce the total cost of the ownership, keeping in view of the production losses or achievement. Now, inventory parameters you review and setting up the min-max level with the reorder points. And of course, these inventory tools and techniques we will discuss in our another video, which will come later on. And then after that, in determination, you optimize inventory to make a significant savings in terms of total cost of the ownership. So once you're done with that, you actually optimize and assess the inventory. You do a better spare planning, or we can say the optimal order planning. In the spare planning, there are some assets as well. I have talked a lot about in my previous video in budgeting planning regarding to the assets. So I thought to add this slide again in this presentation, that CapEx planning is very essential while you're doing the spare planning or material management planning. And in that, you need to maintain close coordination with the plant staffs and the engineers. You need to visit plant sections to analyze the critical item going through their existing inventory and lead time for the CapEx planning. And then you need to maintain the close coordination with the procurement or the suppliers in order to obtain latest quotations from the OEM, and then the close liaison with the finance department for cost depreciation and the learning cost in case of the imports. Now, the key major factor for the asset management is that you need to identify the plant and machinery important space in terms of what item is most critical to your production, and then you actually have to do the development in determining the profitability of the subject, and then the evaluation in terms of price, life, and the technological changes. And after you do that, you actually takes the approval from the higher management and then do the controlling of that. That part actually I have already mentioned in my previous video of the budgeting planning in CapEx, OpEx, and the MRO. So why we do the spare planning? We do the spares identification and spare forecasting for the efficient, consistency for better production. And why we do the inventory assessment and optimization is to decrease the inventory cost while maintaining the minimum space for the profitability by having the maximum production. So ultimately, these two areas has a goal of increasing the profit. The business goal is to increase the profit. One goal is to have efficient production. Another goal is to have decreasing the inventory cost. So you have to actually balance in between these two scenarios, or we can say you have to adopt these strategies to balance these scenarios in order to have profitability in your business goals. So thank you very much for watching my video. I request you to subscribe my YouTube channel in the end as always, and in my next video I will be talking about the tools which are essential for the spare plannings and inventory optimization. Thank you very much, and until then, have a nice day ahead. Thank you.